Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grinwald. This week, my guest is Rebecaa Whitman. Rebecaa calls herself the Magnetic Abundance Mentor. She graduated with honors from Princeton University as an author, was awarded Life Coach of the Year and Empowered Woman of the Year by International Association of Top Professionals. Her podcast, Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant, is ranked globally in the top 5%. She has shared the stage with renowned thought leaders like Les Brown and Jack Canfield. Listen in to hear about manifestation, abundance, a very personal story, some key tips about how to achieve all the things you are looking for in your life. To learn more about the change-making work Rebecaa does, go to RebecaaElizabethWhitman.com. Please subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Stream this podcast on all streaming sites. Reviews and shares are always welcomed and help us to be heard. Like us on Facebook and Instagram by going to Today is the Day, Live It. To learn more about Today is the Day consulting and coaching services and the new Today is the Day Changemakers Connective, go to todayisthedayliveit.com. Sign up for our mailing list to be notified when new events and networking opportunities become available. Also, I am the CEO and co-founder of the Zach G. Applaudor Kids Foundation. To learn more about how the organization is connecting children with a financial need to an ongoing creative outlet, go to applaudourkids.org. The views expressed by all Today's the Day Changemakers podcast guests are their own. Their appearance on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast does not imply any endorsement of them or any entity that they represent. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grinwald, and every week I have the opportunity to interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the most positive way possible. And today I have Rebecaa Whitman. Hi, Rebecaa.
Hi, it's so great to be here, Jody.
Oh, it's so great for you to be here. And I want to thank Charlene, who was a previous podcast guest, for introducing us. So Charlene Garzella, if you're listening, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction to Rebecaa. And I'm looking forward to this conversation so much. But before we get started, Rebecaa, I do the same thing with every guest. I read a little from their bio. So we'll do that first and we'll go from there. Okay.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Rebecaa Whitman, the Magnetic Abundance Mentor. I love that. Graduated with honors from Princeton University and author of an international best-selling books. She was awarded Life Coach of the Year and Empowered Woman of the Year by International Association of Top Professionals. She hosts the top 5% globally ranked Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant podcast, which won the Positive Change Award. Her philosophy divides life into 7 pillars of abundance, which include spiritual, physical, emotional, romantic, mental, social, and financial. She helps people achieve balance within these 7 areas so they can experience more fun and freedom in life. And she's been featured in New York Weekly, The Disruptor, and Voyage LA magazines. And she has appeared on ABC, CBS, and guest starred on multiple podcasts. And so we're going to get into a conversation now after reading all of that. There's so much to talk about. So what I like to do, Rebecaa, with my guests is to go back in time a little bit and for my my listeners to learn a little bit about you when you were younger. So where did you grow up?
Yes, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad was a psychiatrist. My mom was a housewife. And I like to say that it's pretty funny that my dad was a psychiatrist and I was never once asked how I felt about anything. It was all about what I was doing, how I was performing, if I was winning. And by the time I was 8, I was already playing national level tennis. So I felt like kind of a child performer. I always felt like I had to perform for love and approval.
Wow. Okay. So yes, isn't that interesting? Someone with all of that education, right? With their clients, asking their clients about how are you, how are you feeling? And you don't receive that at home. So that must, when you look back now, right? Do you think if that was asked, your trajectory would have been different?
I don't know if my trajectory would have been different, but I would have been a lot happier achieving everything that I have and enjoyed the journey more. So as I get older and as I continue to work on my own personal growth and transformation, I'm learning that the whole point of life is it's a journey. We're all going out the same way, and to have joy and freedom and love while we're experiencing this beautiful human life. So I've had to learn that along the right way.
Yeah, and that interest in each other's humanity is very, I find, very important, right? When somebody says to you, "How are you?"
Yeah.
Are you really, are we, I talk about this in a previous podcast too. We really care when, you walk into the Starbucks or you go onto the gas line and somebody says to you, "Oh, how are you?" We kind of poo-poo it. I've had to start to take notice of it and make eye contact, because sometimes I'm not even making eye contact when somebody says that to me. We throw that away. And are
Yeah.
we asking it and we really want to know the answer? So we should be more cognizant of when we ask that question. I always say it's better to say, "Hope you're having a fabulous day." If we're really not interested in knowing the answer, you're better off not asking the question, because you may get a full answer and not know what to do with it.
Yeah. And now, exactly. And now I like asking people, how are you feeling today? And they will tell me, and I get to practice being an active listener, which is a daily practice for me.
Oh, of course, especially in your role here. But okay, so you went to Princeton University, and did you go because of tennis?
Yes, I got in because of tennis. Do not be intimidated by my intellectual prowess. I got in because I was recruited to play on the tennis team. I did end up quitting tennis after my sophomore year. I decided I wanted to go to Italy on a semester abroad, and I had to quit the tennis team. And it was so worth it because I got to have so much perspective about America and culture and different ways of living. And I did graduate with honors in Italian. So it ended up working out academically, but then that was the end of my academic career. I'm like, all right, I graduated from an Ivy League school with honors. I'm good with my education. I want to go out into the world and see what I can create.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about what you created after that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated from Princeton. I was in New Jersey, so I moved to New York City. And I thought I was going to get a high paying job with my degree. And I kept getting offered internships in the entertainment industry. And I didn't want to be an intern. I was like, well, I'd rather just be an actress. So I started studying acting. I got fired from 2 restaurants. I ended up finding a network marketing company that said, if you do this really intensely for 5 years, you can retire and move to LA and be an actress without having to be a waitress. So I went on that journey, and that journey took me to 20 different cities. I learned a lot about management and sales and business, and it was a lot of fun. And when that company was shut down, I ended up selling cars, of all things. I was selling Ford cars, and I was selling them in Jacksonville, Florida. And I was in an abusive relationship, and I got out of that relationship. I moved to Jupiter, Florida, and I started working for an internet startup company. And that was right before the first internet crash. So we had a lot of funding. I was making more money than I've ever made in my life. And I finally, when that company closed, had a big bank account, and I could finally move to LA and pursue my childhood dream of being an actress.
Wow. And now I want to go back, and I hope you're okay with this, because I don't like to just move past something that, somebody says that somebody could be listening to, and it means something to them. You talked about getting out of an abusive relationship, and when I talk about that, I had been in one myself, so I'm open about it. And I think it's important for a woman who's listening. Did you make a plan? We don't have to go too far into it, but did you just make a plan, or were you able to just leave?
It was a really crazy ending. He had a hunting gun, and he was drunk, and he pointed it at me, and we had a dog, and I said, oh my God, the dog has got to go to the bathroom. I've got to walk him right now. And this was on Jacksonville Beach. So I walked to a nearby hotel, and I called the police, and I said, I don't feel comfortable going back there tonight because he's drunk and he has a gun and he pointed at me. So the police went over there to arrest him. He ran from them. He tried to jump a 10-foot wall between our backyard and the beach. He shattered his ankle, and he was taken into the hospital. And that was the last I ever saw of him. I called his parents and I said, I will drop charges if you pick up his stuff within the next 24 hours. They got his stuff. And even though I dropped the charges, the state of Florida picked them up. So
Yeah.
he did have to go to court for domestic violence. And from there, I moved to Jupiter, Florida. And that is where, I had this huge cash influx from the internet startup company. But I was devastated. It's having a gun pointed at you, having to run and flee and call the police is one of the scariest, hardest things that I've ever had to do. And I'm just so grateful that I lived through it.
Yeah, and I want to just say thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's a very delicate, subject and topic to share, but I feel like it's so important because so many women, when you say it, it's so many women are stuck and feel stuck. They're not stuck. Nobody's stuck.
Yeah.
There's ways to get out, and
Yes.
and I'm always available to help anyone who is in need. So I always put myself out there for that. Okay, so now you make your way to LA, right? And what happens there?
So I make my way to LA and I started off doing extra work, which is what a lot of big stars start that way. And right away, I got to be on really big shows like 24, CSI, Friends, The Practice, Ally McBeal, Boston Legal. It was a lot of fun being an extra and being around all those stars. And I did independent films where I had a speaking part, but I couldn't quite break into getting a speaking part on big TV shows and movies. So I actually answered an ad on Craigslist and I found a children's acting school that needed a membership person. So I used my sales acumen to enroll kids into acting school. And that is an industry that I thought I was just going to do for a couple of years, waiting to make it as an actress, but I've been doing that for the last 20 years.
Wow, 20 years. So are you still doing that? Is that still happening today?
I still do that 3 days a week. And that is actually one of my philosophies on how I teach women in business. A lot of business coaches say, quit your job, max out your credit cards, do a super expensive coaching program, or, buy a franchise for $500,000 and you'll be forced to make it that way. But I know a lot of women who have lost everything. And I feel that when women are in fight or flight mode, they're not attracting customers. So that's why I call myself the magnetic abundance mentor. I feel like when women are in their power and in their feminine energy and open-hearted and receptive, they are more attractive and they will attract abundance. And then when the side hustle, as I like to call it, makes as much money as the job, then you can do the side hustle for full time or not. A lot of people like having multiple income streams.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in that, between, nonprofit coaching forum and a new job coming up. I'm a big believer in not putting all of your eggs in one basket because you just don't know. My father had a saying about, other people having the opportunity to basically control how you eat, right? So when you work for someone else, they do control how you eat, whether it's filet mignon or it's not. And so you have to make your own way. And, everybody nowadays in I feel like this world is doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. But yet you have to figure out how to juggle it and you can get burned out. So do you have any advice about that?
Yes, I have a lot of advice. So my mission is to help overworked, overwhelmed women go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And I like to teach women that there are 7 key areas of life. I call them my 7 pillars of abundance, and not just to focus on financial. We all think I'm just going to focus on making money and everything else will take care of itself. Money is important, but it's not the only thing. And we don't want you to burn out. I actually met a woman who made 7 figures and she got so burned out and exhausted from what it took to do that she had to take 2 years off work. So it was kind of counterproductive. So I teach women to have balance in these 7 key areas. They are spirituality, fitness, emotions, romance, mental, social, and financial. And when you have all 7 areas of life in alignment, you can create anything you want. So you can be in great shape. You can manifest your soulmate, which I recently did. We just got married last year, 12/21/21. And it's been amazing because I was divorced, and my ex-husband told me, you're never going to get married again. And I did. And I've been able to create a lot of ease and grace and abundance at the same time. And that's what I wish for your listeners and for my clients.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't really understand about manifestation, right? They're like, no, that sounds very frou-frou. You know what I'm saying? I did this thing. I don't know if you ever heard of it, the 3-6-9 method. So I had done the 3-6-9. You write you write something you want, but you have to do it in the present 3 times. And then you write it again 6 times in the afternoon and 9 times before you go to bed.
Oh, neat. I never heard of that. That's so cool. Did it work?
It worked. It worked. I met
What did you
someone, and so
manifest?
I was manifesting meeting someone, and I did. And so it was just an incredible experience. And it happened on the 3rd day. So that was actually even stranger. I know, but manifestation is something that a lot of people, like I said, they're like, oh yeah, thinking about it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But it may not happen exactly the way you want it to, right, Rebecaa? Like, you have to be open when you're manifesting. Do you have, sharing with the audience, how do they begin to manifest what they want? What advice would you give on that?
First, you have to know what you want. A lot of people don't even know what they want. So if you don't know what it is, how can you manifest it? So the first step is to know what you want. The next step is to write it down. I have a formula for writing affirmations. I am, I have, I am able to. So write it down in those 3 ways. And I like to teach my clients to have a vision for all 7 areas of life. So they get to write down 3 affirmations for each of the 7 pillars of abundance. I am, I have, I am able to. I suggest they write them on note cards and look at them at least once a day. And when they look at them, close their eyes for just a couple seconds and visualize what it would feel like to have that lover. What would it feel like to gaze into their eyes over a candlelit dinner? What would it feel like to drive a brand new car? And how would your hands feel on the steering wheel? And what would it feel to have peace and be calm and spiritually connected, and to feel into all their affirmations? And then, like you said, it might not show up the way they think, but also just to trust in the timing and trust that it's going to show up in their highest good.
Right. And it is about the trust. And also, I always say, don't come from the fear that if you put any fear into manifesting, it doesn't seem to work. Because I did that too. I'm like, this is just the suggestion of, is this even possible to happen? Just even thinking that way can shut, I feel like, the whole manifestation process down.
Yeah. And if the goal is too out there, too outside your comfort zone, that you're like, no way it's going to happen, then that doubt is going to seep into the other things you're manifesting. So pick goals that are stretchy yet attainable. And then you can always, I like to tell my clients to rewrite their note cards, their 21 affirmations every January. You can always rewrite once a year, or every 6 months, or every quarter once you achieve it. But you want to show yourself that, yes, you can write down something and achieve it.
I can't tell you, it's not just meeting someone. This has happened to me so much because of the belief, and when you take the fear out of it. So I highly recommend this to the listeners.
Pam 10 is a leader in IT enterprise solutions and staffing. They are driven to transform their clients' business performances. They do this every day by providing their clients with the best services and products like BizLego, an online community platform, and Colear, a unique learning management system. They also transform the lives of women and children through their associated nonprofits, SheTech, which supports women in and joining the technology field, and Sofkin, support organization for kids in need. Pam 10, technology for social good. Go to pam10.com for more information.
So talk to us a little bit about your podcast.
Yes, I have a podcast called The Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show. And I interview experts in each of the 7 pillars of abundance. And we give you tips, tools, and strategies on how to get that area of life to a level 10. And I started it during COVID, and I've been very consistent with it. I have I think over 155 episodes now. And it is a passion project. It has not monetized yet. And that's okay. I love learning. I love interviewing people. It's so much fun for me. I've actually grown a lot as a person asking these amazing people these poignant questions. And I would love for you guys to all go over there and have a listen.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. And listen, I never even thought that I'm on my 3rd season now. So it's incredible. It was literally a split-second decision to start this podcast. So another piece is, I know about you, but I had no idea how to start a podcast when I first thought of it. So research, and tell us about that process for you, because a lot of people want to start something, but they think, oh, I don't know how. So they just push it out of their minds.
Yeah, the reason I started it, I was actually at a training, like a business training. And at lunch, she said, I want you guys to reach out to the 3 most interesting people you know, even if you don't know them, even if they're celebrities that you would love to interview, and invite them to be on your podcast. So I took the challenge. I didn't even have a podcast yet. I didn't even know what it was going to be called, but I just reached out to people. A lot of them, I didn't have their cell phone. So I just reached out on Instagram. And I said, hey, I really love what you're doing. You're really inspiring to me. Would you be on my podcast? And I think 1 out of the 3 said yes. And then I just figured it out. I had already been familiar with Zoom. I still, to this day, I don't have fancy equipment or a podcast studio or anything. I just record on Zoom. I found someone on Fiverr to edit it and produce it. And he's in England. And that's how I do it. I just record it on Zoom. My producer's in England. He edits it, and then he posts it for me on all the podcast platforms. I use Buzzsprout. And when it goes on, it goes on Buzzsprout. It automatically populates all the different podcast platforms. And it's really simple. I did not realize how simple it could be. I'm not super techie or anything like that, but it's like, if you can master Zoom, you can do it.
Yeah, it's an inexpensive way to really share stories and to, interview people. For me, it's Changemakers, people around the world who are just doing incredible things in their corner of the world or beyond. And it's all about us coming together as a community to help each other. This human experience is not easy all the time. We all have been through a lot as we get older, trials and tribulations of life, but it's a gift every day. And it's important, I feel like, to create a community. And that's what podcasting does. It definitely creates a community. So where do people find you, Rebecaa? Where's the space for them to go?
Yes, they can find me on my website, RebecaaElizabethWhitman.com. And on my website, I have a couple cool gifts. You can take a quiz, discover your life purpose. And there's another one, are you balanced or burned out? So there's 2 fun things you can do on my website. You can also find me on Instagram at Rebecaa E. Whitman, Twitter at Rebecaa E. Whitman, Clubhouse at Rebecaa E. Whitman, and I'm also on YouTube. So yeah, find me online if you have any questions about the 7 pillars of abundance, or if you want support, maybe you're, exiting an abusive relationship. I am here for you. I answer my DMs. So send me a DM on Instagram. That's the fastest way to get a hold of me.
That's amazing and easy to do. So everybody follow. Let's talk about the fact you said you were featured. I was looking at your bio here in New York Weekly and Voyage LA and The Disruptor. What were you featured in those places for?
I was featured in New York Weekly for how to recession-proof your life. And that is what we were talking about having a side hustle and find something that you would love to do anyway, like something that you would do that even if you didn't get paid, you would do it for fun. And that is going to be a great way to add extra income and fun and passion to your life. And in the other magazines, I was talking about a lot of what we've already talked about today, 7 pillars of abundance, and also just being a disruptor, like going against the hustle and grind culture of our society. That's what I talked about in Disruptor Magazine, because, women especially are pressured to work to the point of burnout and exhaustion. That works for men to work themselves to the bone. I mean, not that well, but women have way more cortisol and we get way more stressed out. And we really have to give from the overflow. So when women are in the workforce or in a relationship and they're burned out and they have nothing to give, they're not a good wife. They're not a good sister. They're not a good mom. They're not a good boss. They're not a good employee. So we get to fill ourselves up first. I'm a big believer in self-care. I like to say self-care is not selfish. And our energy is like a teacup. We get to fill our own teacup up first with things that fill our heart. Working out, prayer, meditation, getting plenty of sleep. I'm a huge believer in journaling. I have an amazing journal format called an abundance journal that I will be gifting your listeners. And this abundance journal I have been doing every morning for 30 years. And it fills my cup. It fills me with positivity. So I can go into my day with just gratitude and self-awareness, and things like this are so important for women that we feel filled up. And then we go into our day. We don't just work ourselves to the bone. So that's a disruptive attitude. And that's really women, stepping back into their feminine power and their femininity.
You brought up gratitude, and I think that's something that we really need to focus on in our lives every single day. And we don't, right? Because the world is spinning so quickly and so many things are happening. And we're, like you said, you get drained, you get overwhelmed, you get burned out. And if we could take a step back in that moment, right, and center in on what we're grateful for in our lives, right, even just for a few minutes or a minute or 30 seconds, it can change your thought process and that feeling of overwhelm. I know I do it, and gratitude is so important. I'm looking forward to the journal, so I hope I get one of those too, because I I want one also.
Yeah, it's journal prompts. It's not an actual journal, but I will
fine.
include the link. And I add something. So not only do I write down my gratitude list, I write down my surrender list, because when we feel overwhelmed, we have this free floating anxiety in our mind, like, oh my God, I got so much to do. I got this, I got that. Oh my God. And to actually write down a surrender list of all the fear and anxiety in our mind and put it down on paper and then surrender it to God, your higher power, the universe, whatever you believe in. And that frees up so much mental space to have a great day and to be a contributor, to be a change maker, as the name of your podcast is.
So talk about books, right? You've done some things that way. So let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, books. The first book I wrote was in 2018. And it was in one of the last conversations I had with my dad. He was on his deathbed. And he said, Rebecaa, I really want you to write something. I don't care if it's a book, an essay, a magazine article, or a blog, but you have a very unique worldview and I want you to share it with the world. So I had no idea what I was going to write. And a few months later, I was sitting in my financial planner's office and he's like, you got divorced and you lost your dad within the last 6 months, yet your finances are great. You're coming in here with positive energy. Why don't you write a book and teach other people how you live life? And that's where I first outlined my 7 pillars of abundance in this book. And each pillar has 3 affirmations at the end. So it's free on Audible if you have an Audible membership, or you can get it on Amazon. So I wrote that book, and then I did a couple collaboration books. I was invited to do Blue Talks, and that stands for Business Life Universe. And that was a collaboration book. That was a international bestseller in self-help. And then I was also invited to do a collaboration book called Phenomenal Feminine Entrepreneurs. And that was really fun as well. So yes, I do love to write whenever I can. And I was an English literature major, so I get to put in those, use my writing skills whenever I can. I wish I had more time to write. I don't block out as much time as I want to, because I'm running 4 businesses right now.
Oh my gosh, 4. So you've got your podcast, you're working with the kids, you have your coaching business. What's the 4th, if I can ask?
The 4th is a health and wellness business where I help, and it'll be on my link tree, which we'll share in the show notes. I am a brand ambassador for liquid collagen. There's 2 formulas, one for anti-aging and one for weight loss. And I really believe in this liquid collagen, and I promote it whenever I can because I drink it every day, and it's changed my hair, my skin, my nails, my muscles, my joints, and I'm just a huge believer in it. So I promote the health and wellness business as well.
Like we said, we juggle, right? Multiple sources of income is not a bad thing. And then especially, but I feel like you and I have that in common, is like we have to be passionate about those sources, right? We can't just sell anything or do anything. It's all about passion projects, which are so important.
Passion is everything. If it's not fun and you're not excited and passionate about it, then don't do it. And if you have to do it temporarily, get that side hustle that you're passionate about, because we all get to feel excitement and passion and wake up looking forward to our day. We got to find something in our day, even if it's not a side hustle. If you don't have time for a side hustle, find something, whether it's your workout or connecting with a loved one that gets you excited about your day, taking a walk in nature, observing the beautiful nature. So find something to get passionate and excited about every day.
So agree. So what's next for you? Anything coming up that we need to talk about?
Sure. I got a couple things coming up. I am going to be speaking at I think it's called Connection LA. It's a new convention. It's the weekend of June 2nd. It's for single people who want to learn from coaches and speakers that can help them with their love life, help them manifest their soulmate. So I'm going to be talking about manifesting your soulmate there. I'm really excited about that. And then I'm coming to New York City, July 11th. I'm speaking at an international women's conference, and I'll be talking there more about how to be more patient with yourself and how infinite patience brings all things. So those are 2 of the events I have coming up that I'm really looking forward to.
That sounds amazing. The one in New York, and it would be wonderful if we'd get to meet in person. So you let me know if you have time for that. That'd be incredible.
I would love to meet you. You're in New York or Philly?
I'm in New Jersey, so not far at all.
Yes, you should definitely. I would love to connect with you and have a coffee or invite you to the women's conference. You would love it.
I would love that. Thank you. Thank you. So, Rebecaa, anything else you want to share before I ask you the last question that I ask all my guests this year?
Wow. Anything else I want to share?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will tell you this. I am traveling for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be going to Vegas for a conference and then Mexico. But I would like to offer 3 complimentary, I call them breakthrough calls, to your listeners. It's 45 minutes. It's a $500 value, and I have 3 spots open. And again, that's in my link tree. And I'm committed to helping someone who feels stuck in one of the 7 areas have a breakthrough and get to the other side. So I don't know if you're stuck in your fitness, your health, your relationship, your finances, but I'm looking to talk to people who have tried everything and just feel like nothing's working. And I'm committed to giving you a complimentary breakthrough call. So go to the link tree and snag one of those 3 spots.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Rebecaa. That's amazing.
Sure.
So now my question that I ask everyone is that, young change makers as well as more experienced change makers listen to this podcast from all over the world. What is a lesson as a change maker that you learned that you could share with them that they could take away?
A lesson as a change maker is how I talk to myself is going to be reflected in how other people talk to me. So the reason why I attracted toxic and abusive relationships and abusive bosses and negativity in my life is because I was a perfectionist. I was constantly beating myself up. I was constantly telling myself, you're not good enough. You could do it better. You could do it different. Why aren't you doing it like this person over there? And comparing myself. So when I learned to be easy on myself, talk to myself with self-love and compassion, to be lighter in my internal dialogue, I started to attract people like you, Jody, in my life. I attracted you through manifestation and being magnetic. And I started to attract people like Charlene, the wonderful person who introduced us, Charlene Gorzella. I started to attract loving, kind people when I started to speak loving and kindly to myself. So that is the wisdom I'd like to leave your listeners, is to be easy on yourself.
Oh, that is beautiful. And listen, you know what, it's funny. I kind of needed even that today. So I'm going to tell you, sometimes you manifest like the things you need to hear too. So, today, even though I know that it's like you just need somebody to say them. So thank you. That gift was also for me. So I appreciate that very much. You just never know who needs to hear just a little bit of encouragement. I always say, sometimes you're the change maker in the conversation, and other times you need a change maker to help you along the way. You just never know. We are all teachers and students within every conversation, and switches in over time throughout that conversation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I really acknowledge you for all you're doing to change the world. And it was such an honor to be a part of your Changemaker Forum. And if you haven't attended Jody's Changemaker Forum yet and you're listening, make sure that you do, because it's an incredible event where you get to hear speakers and panels. And do you have another date set for the next one yet?
It'll be in March of 2024, and I hope you'll come back as a speaker. I so enjoyed it. Well, what I love about the forum, which Rebecaa will learn too as time goes on, is that the Changemaker guests help to craft that forum. It is all of us as a Changemaker community picking, choosing the topics and working through it throughout the year. So that's what I love. It becomes this wonderful Changemaker community, and we invite everyone to follow Today is the Day on Instagram. It's Today is the Day Live It on Instagram and on Facebook. And the reason it's Live It, it's because it's an action, right? So today is the day, live it. We're not given tomorrow. And I'm gonna say what I always say at the end in a moment. But one more time, how do people follow you?
Yes, at Rebecaa E. Whitman on Instagram, Twitter, and Clubhouse. And you can also go to my website, RebecaaElizabethWhitman.com. And if you want to learn more about anything else I talked about today, I will have Jody share my link tree in the show notes. And I can't wait to keep in touch with you and learn more about your stories.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Rebecaa. It's wonderful to have you as a guest. And as things happen for you, come back, share some of these upcoming things and things that you're working on. I really appreciate it. I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what steps, small or large, are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Have a great week, everyone. And again, thank you so much, Rebecaa.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.